follow-up question.
Yeah.
It's taking me a little bit. So now it's going live too.
Okay, so it's not like I was ever right? I just
probably was thinking like hard.
Yeah,
Come on, buddy.
you can do it.
Yeah, now it's just funny, I don't know why I want to do this. Liking it or it's like, oh, what other
yeah, you don't do that with reading.
That's what I'm saying, like, you're really close, you're not gonna be like, oh, well, that's because you're not gonna have to.
Maybe not the formalized, maybe do like the thought processes and all that. It's funny. Society has problems with numbers. Well, I can't tell the difference between 1 million and 100. My wife actually comes into this a lot. She, okay, so what she does as a counselor is
Make it so user-friendly.
explain genetics to people and evaluate them for whether or not they get testing.
So we'll give you the screen post. It'll probably dip to yellow.
Basically, most people, it's
Okay. So once you're talking about the transition.
like if you greater than 50% chance.
Pretty much what
He's pretty interesting, right? Does it remind you a little bit of ABGG?
Kind of, except
Like you have something on your monitor,
like what you want.
and you're getting it ready, and instead of doing like beats per minute, you're just setting up the load. I used to do video DJ with this.
Okay.
We need to collaborate sometime, because I think it would be awesome if we both had masks and nobody knew who we were. And we would just be the hottest item in town.
My DJ duo could use a. My DJ duo play quite a bit. You might get a video game.
I have a projector. We can put it on the side of buildings.
Yeah.
That's what people do, is they focus on that. Party people, let's get started, shall we? Yeah? Yeah. Welcome to the 32nd meeting of the Salt Lake City Python users group. We did the math just barely, but yeah, we've been around since 2014 in February. So that would make us our 32nd meeting of the Meetup group, which is awesome. Along with that, I have some fun news. We just hit, as of this month, 1,000 members. So give yourself a round of applause. Network effect and all that, but yeah, I've never managed that many people ever on anything before, other than all the students here, but they're like, I don't know, half a person usually, so.
Half a person, twice the energy.
Yeah, and all the other campuses, but still, it's kind of awesome. So yeah, we hit 1,000 of anything in Utah. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. I mean, it did happen on conference weekend, so maybe that had something to do with it, but I don't know. People are looking for fun stuff to do. Cool. So, what do we like to do? We got this guy. This is, by the way, an Etherpad. If you go to meetup.com and look at the Meetup user group, one of the comments will be a link to this guy. This might be wrong, but if you click on it, it'll say related video, or it'll say he's streaming right now, because Google kind of changed how we're supposed to stream things. So now we have to use YouTube Gaming to stream this stuff, but we can categorize it as a programming talk, so maybe they're still rebranding that or something, I don't know. It's Google. They're gonna change it over and over. Who knows, maybe they'll say YouTube's its own company that's not part of Google anymore.
It says live now.
Yeah, it should. Okay. Okay, cool. And yeah, our agenda, pizza, meet and greet. As our classes continue, throughout the school year. There might still be some kids here until 7. Usually they don't go past 6:30, but on that occasion, if there's still kids around and stuff's not set up, you're always free to go upstairs and hang out with me, and we look down at the kids and make fun of their poor typing skills. But they're learning, right? That's the point. Yeah, so this is Salt Lake City Python. We've been around, as I said, since February of 2014.
Yeah.
14. And it started because I saw Joe and Ken, who's not here right now, sitting at Sugar House Coffee, of which we are partaking. They were working on a Django problem, and I was like, oh, I know that. Is that Django? Let me help you with that. And then I proceeded to say a bunch of stuff that they never used because I didn't understand the problem at all. So,
But we're still friends, so.
but yeah. But then we were like, hey, we should make a meetup group, and we made this group. So here we are today, 32 meetings later. I still can't believe it. After I did that math. Yeah, Utah Python is like the overreach thing. It's mostly just a name / email. You can always go utahpython@utahpython.org and say that, and we'll all get it, all the people who are on that. But pretty much it's just a mailing list. And honestly, the Salt Lake City Python meetup is the thing I'll answer first. So, but yeah, we provide resources for other meetup groups, such as, you might scroll in that.
Where is it?
Go all the way to the right.
Oh.
The screen. Yeah, there
Wow.
you go. Just scroll down. Okay. Cool. Other meetup groups. We have Utah Python North. Who here's from Logan? Just my dad.
Oh.
Awesome. But yeah, they have a meetup group up there. You're able to see it less and less as the winter gets on with the inversion, but they're still around. They're somewhere. You just have to scrub. But yeah, they're led. Are you leading it now, or is David?
We've changed the leadership structure. We've got 5 people who are from the core, and we've taken over individual responsibilities for things. So
Cool. That's why we have 5 presidents, right?
Well, no, it's not presidents, but just like Ferris here, ask for somebody who will get the pizza, somebody to hand out name tags, set up the tables, all the rest. We basically have those into a little bit more defined roles.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Here it's more
ad hoc.
ad hoc. It's a nicer way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm being nice today.
I call it open source indenturitude, I think.
Mind you, we're a lot smaller than you guys are, so you're welcome to come join us.
I think more than half of your
We're getting a lot of new people.
Oh, that's good. I was going to say more than half of your group are the leaders of the group, right? With 5 people? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Our meetings have been, got down to one point where we only had about 4 or 5 people show up at one meeting. From that, we bounced back to about 15.
If you know somebody at USU who's interested in learning Python, by the way, look no further. The Logan group is really good at that. I joke around because Louis my dad, I guess. He's been my dad for like 28 years, so kind of getting bored of it. No, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Third Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, so we make sure to offset things as much as possible. Salt Lake City Pie Ladies, they are a thing. Trying to remember. Oh crud! They changed the director name. Is anybody? Are you with the Pie Ladies?
Yeah, they're not very active. Carrie.
Carrie Joy. That's
Carrie
who I
Joy,
know. She's
yeah.
usually there. And then who's the other person?
I don't know.
I can't remember her name. She's with Girl Development actually.
Oh,
That's Stacy
Amanda?
Farmer.
No, Casey.
Yeah. So they have their cycles too, but I mean they're awesome groups. Definitely people who are always looking for tutors, things like that. So if you're keen, you can always hit them up. Python at the Point. That is Clint Savage. He is the southern people. They are like literally at the point of the mountain. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Where's Matt? Oh, there you are.
They're a salt stack right now.
Okay, Salt Stack.
Which is in Lehigh, I think, Point.
Cool. So if you venture beyond 21st South, there is actually more like civilization there, turns out. So I did not know that. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I actually saw Clint Savage at a Tycho concert. That was pretty interesting. just randomly bumped into each other. Provo, they have PyWasatch. They are still a thing. They keep, every so often I'll get a notification, this meetup group needs your help, step up and be the leader. I'm like, okay. And then like a day before they're about to expire, somebody steps up, so good for them, I guess. Girl Develop It, Salt Lake City, I just mentioned, that's Stacy Farmer. They're awesome. I've done Django workshops with them. They're more workshop oriented with little mini workshops at coffee shops and things like that. They're very much beginner focused, as are we, but we cover a wide range of topics and we're more broadcast and they're a lot more like network. So they're pretty awesome. We got a couple websites, SaltLakeCityPython.com or SLCPy.com, both will redirect, and UtahPython.org. GitHub repos, I haven't forked for a while, but usually what I'll do is I'll fork people's talks to this and it'll act like an index. Cool, can you scroll down a little?
Yeah.
If you just scroll with the thing, it'll just do it.
Oh, that's pretty high tech.
Yeah, Linux, I know, right? Anyway, our sponsors tonight, it's Pythonistas like you. Thank you. So pat yourself on the back. But yeah, this could not be possible without your guys' support. That also includes giving talks, that includes finding sponsors, things like that. Event board will sponsor every other thing. So is that what you guys were talking about? Maybe.
Every other, sure. Yeah.
Like every other talk-ish. We'll talk and double check. It's a new quarter, so I don't know if you guys have changed.
I'm not saying we won't, I'm just.
Yeah, okay.
It's new.
Tech Systems said they'll take up the slack this quarter as well, pretty soon. And of course, Zaniac. Zaniac is after school education. I kind of work here. I'm the technical co-founder. I wrote software that tricks kids into learning math. We're going to be rewriting all the software, hopefully by the end of this quarter, beginning of next quarter. Just to drop a techie hint of what I'm allowed to say is it's going to be an Electron app. You guys, if you use Slack, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, we're going super high tech with that stuff, or not. I don't know. We'll see. that's what we're thinking right now. Cool. New sponsor appreciated. So if you hit me up on the Meetup site, that would be awesome. We'll figure it out. We are open accounting, so all the money that goes into our account is logged and available for everybody to see. The only thing you don't see is exactly who donated what. That stays anonymous and only goes to the core membership. Cool. That's all the boring stuff. Let's do the fun stuff. So we have a tradition for new members. Used to be every member, but if you imagine going around the room doing this, it would not be fun, right? So who's new here, by the way? Raise your hand. Quite a few people, so that's pretty fun. So you're going to introduce yourself. It's always your name and occupation, and always something non-coding related. So this month, it's your favorite Halloween costume, and I'm going to leave this one open to something that you've seen or have worn. Okay? So my name, Faris Shabib, my occupation, technical co-founder. Lately, my favorite Halloween costume is, what I think is going to be an awesome one, and my favorite so far, it's going to be a clown, just because of all that craziness going on. That I don't know what happened, but I'm just like, really? This is a thing now, huh? Times we live in. Times we live in. So yeah, who else is new? We'll start this way.
All right. My name is Ben. I'm currently between programming jobs, so. My favorite Halloween costume I've seen. I don't know, I just like all the Harley Quinns going around this year. I expect them to be good.
Sweet. And you get to pick the next new guy. Raise your hand. There you go.
This kid right here.
Tyler, software engineer, LampStack, about a decade. And Harley Quinn sounds good.
Sweet. LampStack as in PHP guys, so we're trying to make him see the light.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. You're
Been
here.
in my cave, so.
No worries. Who else is new? Raise your hand.
Who's next? Go down there.
Hi, I'm here, so I'm a research assistant at the U. And a few years ago, I dressed up as Hawkeye Picture for Mac. Was the name.
Nice. Nice. So who's next? You get to pick the next guy.
Hey, I'm Wes. I'm a systems engineer at Pluralsight, and favorite Halloween costume maybe a Frankenstein. I don't know.
Classic. Who's next? Raise your hand if you're new. You get to pick somebody.
I'm Paul. New to Salt Lake City in the last 3 weeks. Came up following my wife. Took a job out here and I'm looking. My background is mechanical engineering, but Python as a hobby. And I guess I have to go with my daughter's costume of going to be Cinderella this year. So that's my favorite one.
You should see how many Frozen costumes we get here. It's ridiculous. Who else is next? Raise your hand.
I'm Jacob Hummel. I just moved here in July as well. Just finished my PhD in astronomy. Followed my wife out here, and am looking for a job as a data scientist.
It's nice. I got a contact for you, actually, by the way.
Favorite Halloween costume? I'm looking forward to the Donald Trump and the Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, absolutely no one will be doing that.
Man, I went like a full hour without hearing those names.
I'm so sorry.
Kessinger just debating Trump.
Yeah, pretty kidding. Yeah, this is great. Who else is new?
I'm Carl Kibler. I'm a software engineer and team lead at Cerner, which is the EMR provider to Intermountain Healthcare. Halloween costume. A couple years ago, I built a really great, realistic Ghostbusters backpack. So this year, I'm interested to see the new and the old ones out there.
Who else is new? I believe there was a gentleman in the back. You're new, right?
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
My name's Devin, and this is Chris, and this is Anish.
Are you guys all new?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
I've been working at Fusion IO and now studying this in my highest visual for like 6.5 years. A few years ago, I dressed up as the Jenkins butler. Anybody knows who that is? Yeah, and I had like a red ball and a green ball. The red ball was all the records supposed to be broke other records. I got you right there.
Who else? Anybody? Any other new people?
Who's shy?
Don't be shy. Who's shy right now? Who needs to publicly speak? Who needs to confront that fear? No? Okay. Anyway, who's hiring? By the way, 32 times ago, I was like shaking when I was up here. Now I'm just like, whatever.
Speaks his mind.
I know. I don't even care anymore.
I know someone who's hiring.
Oh, yeah. Who's hiring? Do you want to type these in?
I can.
So
By the way, anybody can type these in.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? Are you going to put it in?
I was gonna, if he wants to write in Verizon Digital Media Services.
Verizon Digital Media Services.
So yes, you too could work for AOL and Verizon, and
And soon to be Twitter, maybe.
No, I'm pretty sure the buy of Yahoo is going to go through. No idea how that's going to shake out. If you want to come work on video streaming stuff, it's pretty cool.
Sweet.
We've got still a number of positions open.
Awesome. Who else is hiring? Anybody?
Jane.com, we got like 5 positions open. The front end is JavaScript, back end is C#. We have a UX and a business intelligence analyst position as well. So those are with us.
What,
I couldn't hear you the
what
last
JavaScript?
part, so.
Data analytics.
Okay.
What front end library with JavaScript? Okay. Cool. Who else is hiring or knows somebody who's hiring? Oh? Huh. Must be a new quarter. Awesome. Who's looking? Who's awesome rock star who's looking? We've got a couple people, and if you're putting your names down, that's always good.
So, you can add your name to just, I can see your name tag basically, so.
So sell yourself.
Well, am I right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, so I just finished my PhD in astronomy. Spent most of that time doing supercomputer simulations.
I know like 2 people already for you. Okay, keep going.
But all the analysis and stuff I did, I've been doing in Python since 2008. So I've been doing Python for a while. My preferred programming language. Yeah, so my expertise is in big data analysis and system. So
cool.
Cool.
Smart. Oh, right, Dr. Jacob Hummel, just so.
Yes. Yeah. The PhD doesn't give that away. I guess. He might be an MD too. I don't know.
I just know somebody who adds doctor every time to everything now.
Oh, like your dad?
I've only
done
yeah.
Still weird.
So, by the way, after these meetups, sometimes I'll like step out the door and accidentally trip and end up in the pub with a few people. And so you should hit us up if we accidentally trip and end up in the pub. I know 2 people already off the top of my head who worked at astronomy at the U instead of you. So.
Okay.
Cool. Sell yourself.
Okay. That's a tough act to follow, but so
we'll add doctor if you want.
I'm gonna take my wife. So my background is in mechanical engineering, as mentioned. Came from the automotive business, automotive seating mechanisms. Bachelor's and master's in engineering, an MBA. Been in Python programming for a few years. I'm interested in that. I've used it both just as a hobby, kind of getting to know it, and a little bit professionally, just mainly analyzing data from engineering analysis. So I'm looking wide at the moment.
What tools do you use, by the way, for that?
For
the engineering analysis? Solid.
The stuff that I integrated with Python is coming from like stress strain, Instron, and Mosel, LBT.
If you want to stay in ME stuff with automotive, there is Autoleave. They're kind of far, but they do airbag stuff. They're pretty interesting.
Yeah, we used to work with them seating. They integrate to the seats, so I'm familiar, but yeah, it's a little far, but still.
Just saying.
They're doing well with the Takata problems. Airbags, I understand.
Yeah.
And it's an opposite to traffic.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the really nice part. Cool. Anybody else who's looking? Ben?
Yep. My name's Ben Leonard. Write that. I can put a doctor if you want, but not a real one.
He just plays with it.
He plays on TV. That looks real good.
Yeah. Yes. All right.
Dr. Ben Leonard.
Systems engine level. I worked for a short time doing just a lot of front end and PHP stuff, and write stuff if you want.
And stuff.
And I'm looking to get into Python. So.
Make sure to add a parenthetical, not really a doctor. Or all
I'll just do a PHP tag.
I didn't see one of those forever.
There you go. So.
Awesome. Anybody else who's looking? Got another gent right behind you.
My name's Daniel. I'm a level 23 lab stack dev.
Pokemon?
Oh, level 23 lamb.
But see, I've got my former direct boss here and my current direct boss, so you can go to them for a glowing recommendation.
Not now that he's looking.
Wait, is it former as of like right now?
Switch projects, so
Oh, okay.
that was my actual boss, just effective direct boss. So
How many levels are there
I don't
in
care.
the lamp?
That's you can interpret that however you want.
Okay, cool. Just wondering.
I think that's how many devs there are left too.
Oh, ouch.
I'm
Can you raise
that? Hey, at least you guys don't code in Ruby, right? So. Sweet. Well, what's the downtown Ruby user group? It's drugs, isn't it?
Yeah, drug, yeah. Cool.
Nice. And then the Salt Lake Linux user group is Slug. Those guys are awesome. They're the reason, they were my inspiration for this group, by the way. So if you want to check them out, definitely just Google SLLUG. Actually don't, because I don't know what that'll pull up now that I thought about it a little bit more, but I don't know, and add Linux and stuff like that. Anywho, that's who's looking. Usually, this broke the record, by the way, for the last, I think, 8 months since, how long has it been? Since like April or something? I'll have to check the records, but it's usually more people who are hiring than looking, so ratio is usually the other way around. But of course, it's Q4, so everybody's like, tighten up that wallet, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe everybody's just moving here now. So, coolio. Let's scroll down a little. Just want to make sure. I think we got everything.
Yeah, wait, that's the other way. Okay.
Sweet. Community news, that's the last one. Anything in the Python community, real quick? Anybody knows stuff that happened with Python? Have they opened up tickets to PyCon yet? Which will be in Portland? Because when they do, you want to get your early bird one. And I was thinking this year of renting a van and having like just a riotous like trip up and down in said van to Portland. I think that might be fun.
Is it in Portland again?
Yeah, they do it twice in the same place every year. Or every 2 years, I guess. Oh wait, once every 2, yeah, there we go. No. Anyway, interval math is hard, guys. The next one will be Cleveland, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Pi Ohio is super happy about that. And yeah, no other tech news, community news. New iPhone came out. Everybody's happy about it, I think.
Just a couple of minutes ago, I saw that Rethink DB is closing down as a company.
What?
Yeah. The project's going open source.
That's good.
So they'll still be able to use it, but the company won't be able to. A bunch of their devs are now joining Stripe, but I haven't seen an announcement that Stripe bought them or anything.
Yeah.
Just they're like, oh, our devs are going to Stripe. I'm like, what?
Man, if Stripe was public right now, that would be a stock I'd buy. But they're not. Twilio, if we make a bunch of money on them, they're pretty awesome. Cool. Any other hot stock tips or
Insider trading tips?
Insider trading? Verizon guy? Huh? Huh? You buying Twitter? No? Sorry. Oh yeah, they're buying Yahoo. That was pretty interesting. Yeah, Pixel also came out. I don't know. They're both disappointments. Cool. Anybody want to do a talk coming up? We don't have one next month. What do you want to talk about?
I can talk about Python and astronomy.
Python and astronomy.
Yeah. That's cool.
Cool. Write that. Put it right at the bottom right here. Add another line.
Wait, where? Here?
I can't see your name. You're covering it. Jacob. Press enter.
Enter.
Yeah, there you go. Python and astronomy. I should have said new line.
Oh, me.
Cool. And touch base with me after this. And then we'll try to figure, we're going to have somebody from New Relic coming next meetup. We'll see if they want to sponsor things. So that'll be cool. December, we'll figure it out. January, we'll figure it out. February, this is just letting everybody know. February, what we usually do is have an anniversary like dinner thing. It's a lot of fun. We literally just go to Mellow Mushroom and we order pitcher after pitcher and we reminisce about the old times when byte strings were the case in Python and you didn't have to worry about Unicode errors. Guys, makes me sad. When you didn't have to wrap print statements in parentheses.
It's a function.
Is return a function? Is return
Some of us are still on Python too.
Sorry?
Some of us are still on Python.
I know.
Yeah, some of us
Spoil us.
What makes me feel better about lab is mostly like this is still like parentheses though. A lot of that.
You should check out. You should check out.
Cool. We're gonna take a quick 5-minute restroom / more food / coffee break, and then we'll start our talk. Cool. Thanks, guys. Switch it to the banner. Yeah. And then click mute right here so people don't hear. Just click on that. Yeah. pots and pans. Cool.
Transition this second. Are you going to?
Yeah, in a sec.
Can you do it?
All right, with us today we have Alex. Alex is a West Coast Berkeley guy, apparently. I'm just finding out, which is pretty cool. He's also...
Berkeley's like Cal Berkeley? Well, I lived in California up until 3 months ago. So.
Yeah. But not the school, Cal.
No, I lived in the city though.
Alex is so gung-ho that he came to one Python meetup group, and he's like, I want to give a talk. And so is Jacob, apparently, so that's kind of cool. So,
it's already written.
Yeah, oh, there you go, it's already written. Python astronomy talk.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't mind.
Make it sound super impressive.
Yeah, so Alex is going to talk to us about profiling Python in production. I'm going to switch this, and it's going to break everything. Come on, buddy. You can do it.
I believe in you.
Oh, mighty tech gods.
Blow on it.
Hear our prayer.
Blow on it.
I mean, in the worst case, I just disconnect.
So I unplug it and plug it back in again?
He's a tech guy, guys. So close. Come on, you can do it. Come on. Yes. Sorry, I had to use mind powers there. So we're gonna just do a screen share. Oh, you need to share your screen again.
I want screen share.
And yeah. Oh, by the way, this is being broadcast live, as I mentioned with the YouTube link. So yeah, the camera's pointing this way, but sometimes I'll do this. I'll be like, "Who's this over there in the audience?" Come on. Maybe I don't. Come on, buddy. Yay. You want me to cover this? People will see?
No, it's, I got rid of all my cards.
Here we go. Awesome. Cool. We're good to go when you are.
Okay, so I'm going to sit down because it makes me feel more comfortable. So I'll just speak loud and we'll see how this goes. I've given this talk a couple different ways and a couple different times. I'm going to try and not do as much slides this time because this is like a Python meetup and try and do more some code demos. But I feel like there's a couple things we just need to talk about to make sure everyone's on the same page first. So I'm kind of interested in knowing how many people work with Python for their job or work with it daily. Just raise your hand. Okay. And how many work with it like in a web capacity? Starting to. Okay, cool. Does anyone develop like a Python library at all? Okay, a little bit? Okay. So I think this is applicable to library developers, to web developers, and I think some of the concepts are applicable to LampStack, to Python, to Ruby, to anything really. So I think you can take away a little bit of everything. Most of the demos are Django, just because that's what I live and breathe, but they work well in Flask. I've used them in Tornado. I've used them in many different capacities. So here's roughly what we're going to do. Eventually I'm going to talk about a tool called SlowJam that was recently open source, but really it was just like pulled out of a larger package that was not usable elsewhere. But first let's talk about some basics. So ostensibly I'm talking about profiling, which I was trying to figure out how do you kind of describe that, and I think it's effective profiling is like being able to reason about slowness at scale, and that's like human scale and computer scale. And that encompasses other things like monitoring, tracing your code in production, and getting visibility into the code as it executes in production, because sometimes we know it's hard to know what's going on in production. So profiling, like I said, is like figuring out what's slow. Monitoring is kind of seeing how things change over time. Tracing is like being able to say, this line of code executed and then this function got called. And what's interesting about tracing is I think as we move forward, we're starting to see tracing needing to span systems. So there's services like Twitter Zipkin that you can kind of see how a request has gone through an entire system, even if it goes over the network. And then, like I said, visibility is being able to see into your code as it executes on your local box, but more importantly on production. So there's a number of tools that we can use, and I'm going to talk about some Python tools, but I think when you start deploying into production, you're using a lot more than just, say, tools that you've written in Python. And there's kind of generic types. So there's like graphs and events. So if anyone has, how many of you have heard of StatsD or Ganglia? Okay, I'm going to cover it more in detail, but it's, you know, every time my website gets loaded, I'm going to fire off an event. And sometimes it's really simple, like just like, you know, counter increments, and sometimes it's a little bit bigger, like you're doing behavioral analysis and stuff like that. And these tools have been around for a long time, like RRD and Cacti are pretty old, but there's newer tools like StatsD. Another generic type of tool is just logs, right? So your code is going to emit messages that you can kind of like SSH to a server and look at. Hopefully you're not doing that anymore. You're like sucking those logs someplace else like Splunk or Logstash. It's gonna make your life easier. But those are, you know, invaluable tools when it comes to figuring out what's slow. And then finally, there's profilers. And I think if you've written code and you've had to figure out if it's slow, you probably have experience with profiling, even if it's just like print 1, print 2, how long did that take? You know, we've all done that. But then there's also facilities inside of languages often to allow you to figure out what's going on. So StatsD is pretty important, and so I'm going to cover it. But StatsD was created, I believe, by Etsy, which was where a lot of the people from Flickr kind of went to. And so they made it so that you could stand up a server and you could just start firing analytics at it. And you didn't have to tell it beforehand what you want, what you cared about. You could decide afterwards. And seeing as how Flickr kind of like originated the concept of DevOps, this is really cool. Ops stands up a box, Dev gets to throw crap at it. And this is literally how easy it is. Like, you don't even have to have an API. You can just use Netcat to like send some data to it. So for like on our Jenkins server, when we do a deploy, we use Netcat to tell StatsD that we did a deploy. And StatsD is not alone. There's many other tools that do this. And so StatsD is even maybe, StatsD and Graphite are kind of not fitting in with the modern world, and there's new stuff like InfluxDB and Prometheus that I think fit the same. And this is what I mean by graphs. I don't mean like directed graphs. I mean like pretty monitors. So many of these stats dashboards are driven off of tools like StatsD, InfluxDB, and other stuff. And in one version of the talk, I talk about this way more importantly, because if you put this on a wall inside of an office, look how long it takes for everyone to look at the monitor and be like, what happened right there? You know, it's a great tool for getting everyone in a room to align on what's important. So logs are super important. And I think if you've more than one box, you should be using some kind of a tool that grabs those logs and puts them in a central place that makes it easy to read. Logstash, Fluentd, Scribe. So if you've ever looked at a server log, I have to imagine most of us have, you'd see stuff like this, which is great, like I said, on one box, but when you go from one box to n boxes, it kind of no longer makes sense. And so it's great if you can have a tool like this. And this is Kibana, which is built on top of Logstash and Elasticsearch. And what you can do is you can grab all the logs from all the boxes, and you can send them to a central location, and then you can search. And there's lots of other stuff you can build on top of this, but I think this is just like the core meeting your call, you know, for a company. So when you profile, hopefully you're profiling for a reason. And you're not just like having fun. I mean, having fun is great when you're profiling, because sometimes you learn that way. But if you're working in a company, usually you've got customers. If you build a library, you've got consumers of that library. And so hopefully you're concentrating on the value that you're delivering to your customers or the value that you're delivering to your library consumers. So you've got a goal. You want to make sure that that value delivery doesn't get destroyed. And so when we profile, we should profile with a goal in mind, unless we're just kind of like doing a science experiment and trying to figure it out. So I think there's some generally accepted best practices, which is profile when it's slow. Who determines if it's slow? If you've got some kind of product person in your company, they get to decide what's slow. You know, when does it impact the user? And then you work with your team members and you decide what that is. And if it's too slow, then you got to break out the tools and figure out what's going on. When you enter the process of profiling, concentrate on the bottleneck. That's it. Fix the bottleneck, and then you'll find the next one, and then the next one, until it's fast enough. But if you're not fixing the bottleneck, then you're not fixing the problem. And that means it's something different to everyone, so it's kind of hard to break it down what the bottleneck is. So there's a couple different tools in Python. There's some tools that I've used, there's some tools that I haven't used. I don't want to really cover the tools I haven't used because I haven't used them and I don't know how they work. But these three, even though the last two are Django based, like it doesn't really matter that they're Django based. They are built on top of facilities that are available. Any stack that you use, you could probably type in Flask cProfile middleware and get the same thing. The line profiler is an interesting one because sometimes when you're using the built-in tools like cProfiler, it's hard for it to tell you a line that's slow when you're doing like an array access. So sometimes you can overload what an array access does in Python, and cProfile has a hard time telling you when that's slow. So line profiler is great because it'll show you your code and each line as it goes by, and it'll tell you how much time each line is taking. And I'm going to show you how these are used in just a second. So there's a large group of tools in Python, like statistical profilers, where they like interrupt the process every couple milliseconds and say, hey, what are you doing? And they keep track of that. And there's a lot of companies that use that. Dropbox has a tool called Plop. I know that a lot of people use them effectively. I just have never used them. So you should look at those if that's something that's interesting to you. Okay. I tried to make sure this was working right before the presentation. By the way, does anyone have any questions about profiling, monitoring, tracing, logging, anything that's happened we've talked about so far? Nope. Yeah, go for it.
That black screen, you said that you put that on a wall. What program was that?
That was Grafana.
Was Grafana?
Yeah. Grafana is a great tool. If you install Graphite, it actually comes with a dashboard tool in it. It's not great, but it has it. Okay, so in Django, this is how you write a view, which is basically a URL connects to a function and returns a response. And in this, I'm doing lots of loops. Some of you might notice I'm using range where I should be using xrange, but that's cool. It's like demonstration purposes. Here is my server. And here is the view. Okay, so it loaded. We can see down here my logs, and it's just like a function. But let's say it's too slow because a product person came over and said, our users' value is being impacted, make it faster. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but let's find out. So the first tool that is super handy because it's like kind of like you can applicable to anything is this thing called the cProfiler middleware, which is just like, what the hell is this view doing in general? it's not super detailed, and if it doesn't just like hit you like what's going on, then it's not that helpful. So this function's really quick. So there's not much to see here. I've got a slower function, though. Yeah, there we go. So in this function, I basically make an HTTP call somewhere else. And so you can see that it's waiting on the socket, and it's doing a lot of like reading, which makes sense. So if all this function does is it's making an HTTP call, that's what's slow about this function. And I gotta go talk to the person who has the response, and it's not my code, which is great. I just used this the other day. So if you use the Django admin tool, or you have any tool that kind of produces SQL outside of your control, some of us might deal with this sometimes, and someone says that page is slow, and you're like, but that's not my code. You can use this because you can just load the page, and then you can say prof equals 1, and if you're logged in, that's super important. I'm logged in, so that's why this works. It'll say what's slow, and I was able to like look at the output of this and see, oh, it's spending all this time talking to Postgres. There's a slow query, I gotta go find what that is. So I didn't have to spend a lot of time in my code to realize what was wrong. And so I didn't have to worry about the code. I didn't even have to open up my text editor. I was just like, nope, something's wrong with the database. Or our query is wrong. And so I went and used our query looking at tool. So this is a great one-hit tool. So the next one is line profiler. This one's a little tricky because I'm using Docker Compose and it's buffering the output. So I gotta save the code so that the server restarts, and then there we go. Let me increase the size. So this is the output of line profiler down here at the bottom. Can everyone see this? So if you remember before, here's my function, and then here's the output. And it's basically telling me at which line, what's going on, and how slow is it. And this is great. It doesn't work super well for like looking at like a huge call stack. It might be obvious, but if you can start to like scope down what you're looking at, this is a great way to sort of say, I think this function's slow, what's going on inside of here? And there's one more. Any questions so far?
Have you used line profiler extensively?
No, I do not, because of slowjam, which I'll talk about later.
It has a feature where, like, if you're using line profiler, you can tell it to trace other function calls inside of it. So let's say you have function 1 that you're profiling, and it calls function 2.
Yeah.
You can tell it to profile function 1 and function 2 simultaneously, so that if you do have that deep call stack, you can start like targeting and drilling down through it.
That's what's hard about line profiler, is it just shows you the function. And so if you have other function calls, you have to like manually like move your decorator down the stack. So that's cool.
Yeah. It has some limits. It's not perfect.
So that's line profile, it's not Django debug toolbar line profile?
No, but if you use the Django debug toolbar, then you can just add that in.
Just invest it.
Okay, so the other useful tool that I've used pretty extensively in production is being able to generate a call graph. So this tool is called Yet Another Django Profiler, and it's not the easiest thing to install in production because you have to install GraphViz and Dot, because that's how it generates this PDF. But when you're just sort of like, what the hell is going on in the code? I don't know where it's slow. I've looked at all the code that I've written, and now I need to start looking at other functions outside of my control. This is a great visualization of what's going on. You don't really have to see the text to understand it. Basically, the hot color is where all the time is being spent, and the cool color is where the time isn't being spent. So you can very quickly say, go to the hot zone and figure out what's going on. In Python, you would be surprised how many times the red zone is JSON deserialization or JSON serialization. It's not fun, but it happens. What I'm talking about here, so all these tools are useful, and they're useful in production, but they're kind of like this generic, like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on at all kind of tools, which are great, like you want to have those in your bag. But hopefully we're not fighting fires all day long and having to pull out these generic tools. Over time, we should be able to start to reason about our code and say, okay, we're doing a lot of database access here. We're doing some network calls here. I think this is where my code's going to be slow. And you want to start to be able to say, I want to watch this, because over time, this is where I think the slowness is going to happen. And I want to put it up on a monitor, or I want to put it in a statsd. And so that's where a tool that I'm going to show you called SlowJam comes in. Any questions?
I just have
Yes.
if you use run snake,
I have not.
well, I'm saying the way that works is it does it puts the functions in nested boxes. So the function that uses the most time is the biggest box. So if you have like several dozen or even hundreds of function calls, you can see which one is the biggest one and say that's what the box. So if you have a really complex thing that you're doing, a task that has several parts to it, it's really easy to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah, anything that can help you quickly visualize code is super helpful. Okay, so I have a function here. All it does is it calls out to HTTP bin, and it waits a little bit, and then it returns the response, and then I print out the response.
Can you dumb up your phone a little bit?
Yes. So this is the function, but what you might notice is that I wrap the HTTP call with this context manager called span, and I'm kind of naming it. I'm saying demo view.request. And what I'm sort of doing is I'm saying inside of this code block, something slow might happen. And in this case, it's making an HTTP call, so it's going to be slow. And sometimes it'll be like a second slow. If you can see, I'm randomly choosing a delay. And so I think this is analogous to a lot of web code written today. You're going to have a composition layer, which is your view. You're going to have to go to your database. You might have to go to other services. You're going to have to gather all that stuff, and then you're going to send it back to the user. And 99.9% of the time, everything's going to work just fine. It's in those 0.1% of the times in production where you're like, what's going on? How can I fix it? So I think when you can take your domain expertise of the code that you've written and apply it to monitoring is when you get the best results from profiling in production. And I think SlowJam is a tool that can help bring those two together. And I'm going to show you some of the components of it so it's not so opaque. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my server and I'm going to bring it under load. So now, concurrency of 3, but I'm just going to let it start hitting the server constantly. So sometimes it's throwing a 500, sometimes it's 200, sometimes it's 404. It's variable in its speed. I don't know why. And I have really low visibility right now into my code. It's basically all I have are these logs, and I don't even have log stash. So I'm going to turn on the SlowJam middleware. it's going to gracefully reload. Oh. There we go. So, I'm going to stop this real quick. What you can see now is that in my debug console, I now have a kind of like a trace of what my function is doing. It's hierarchical. It's telling me how long each step is taking, and it's kind of using this information that I included in line. So again, this is my function, demo view request, and this is the terminal output. So, you know, as a programmer, this feels fairly elegant to me. I'm basically kind of just nesting it, and I'm saying, pay attention to what's underneath here. If I'm a developer and I see this once in code and I kind of understand what it does, it's gonna be really easy for me to just take that and apply it elsewhere. So like if you work in an engineering organization, I think you can kind of very easily get this to spread out through the organization. And then it has an additional benefit. So in debug mode, it's just printing out this kind of like very static output, which if you're familiar at all with like how Logstash or Scribe would suck in logs, this would be really hard to parse. It'd be no fun because it's multiple lines. But there's a version of SlowJam when I turn off debug mode where it serializes down to JSON. And then you can send it all the way through to Logstash in Elasticsearch, and then you have sort of what I call telemetry. So now I can have a client that can listen to the Logstash TCP output and then decode these slow jams in real time. And if you have a pretty good understanding of how fast your endpoint should be normally, you can set the level at which those traces get output. So for instance, my company, our like 95th percentile is about 500 milliseconds. So around 300 milliseconds, these things start printing out. So I can get a sense of what's slow in my code base and is there something I can do about it. And, oh, that doesn't work. It's also sending each one of those spans is its own timer that's being reported to StatsD. And this, I think, is live output of what's happening. Yeah. So right here, this is basically we're emitting a counter of how much time that context is taking every request, and it's getting sent to StatsD, and StatsD is calculating things like 90th percentile, mean, median, 95th percentile, and then I'm graphing it. So I think what you get from this is it's really easy for any engineering organization to use these tools. It very easily sends the data to tooling that you might already have, like StatsD. And then if you have Grafana, you can start to build these shared dashboards, and which I think are super important, especially in engineering organizations where you're trying to get a group of people to work together, which is in and of itself a hard task. By putting it on a dashboard and saying, hey, this is important to us as a group, people start to look at it and start to understand. They say, oh, hey, there's a little bloop right there. What does that mean? And then, you know, Greg raises at the end and is like, oh, we just did this. It's a great communication tool. And not only does it help in the normal times, but when you're under load, you can very quickly zoom in on where the problem is, and you hopefully you have a strong enough mental model that it helps you understand what part of that model is broken, and you can quickly fix it. So I don't know where this would break. So this is the Django dev server. It is multi-threaded, but it's running inside a Docker. So I'm gonna try 10 concurrent connections and see what happens. It's kind of like watching paint dry, but I'll let it run for a little bit longer and see what happens. So, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
Usually just to record time on endpoint, but it's more generic.
Yes. So, for instance, here I'm recording like how many of what response codes am I getting. So it doesn't record 200 because hopefully most of them are 200s, and you just want to know the aberrant response codes. So this is like, you know, if I actually got this percentage of 404s or 500s, I'd be like, well, something broke right there. I'm going to go fix that. If you work in a continuous integration or continuous deployment pipeline at all, a great tool is just to record every time you roll out. And then on every graph you have, you just draw a line where you deployed, and then you can see, did my deploy break production, or was production broken for some other reason? Which is like hugely helpful if you've ever worked in a production environment like that. So that's kind of my talk.
So these are mostly performance profilers. Do you know anything about memory profilers? Do you know any good ones to use for that?
No. Just reboot the server often.
What are some of the biggest wins you've gotten out of this? Particularly interesting things?
Yeah.
High value or interesting?
So I think if you run a production website that uses Django, Flask, or some kind of Python tooling, using statsd is sort of like table stakes at this point. What I think you get from a tool like SlowJam is you start to have to think about the model of what's happening. And when you're in a group and you're all trying to work, you know, in the same direction, that initial level of communication can be incredibly difficult. You know, sometimes you don't even talk about the fact that we're all as a group and we're trying to go in one direction. So the biggest win that I've seen is that this can drive conversation to a point that's fruitful and not just like, what do you mean? What do you mean? So I think that's the biggest win you get from using a tool like SlowJam and profilers. But, you know, it's sometimes when you're bringing up a new service, you know, it's like, oh, I forgot to use polling for my Postgres database, connection polling. And sometimes, like, if you've ever seen that pattern where it's like, okay, well, one connection was just fine, and now all of a sudden we have like 20 people on the website, and our CPU just like, it's like, what's going on? It's like, oh, the connection polling. And so it just becomes visually easy to say, well, something just happened, clearly, what happened? But like I said, I think that the group communication is the most powerful product.
Yeah. How do you know what are the important things to measure?
That's a great question. And I think that in most organizations, that's a group decision and not an individual decision. I think that if you're an engineering organization and you may not or may not like your quote unquote product team, then I think you probably have an alignment issue. And asking them what's important to measure for you and then instrumenting it in your code, I think you're all of a sudden going to see this sort of like magical, like everyone's happy. Because when you're aligned in any situation, it feels better. So, you know, if you're an ops person, it's probably easy to say CPU, memory usage, disk I/O. But I use this tool from systems all the way up into product. And for me, I found it pretty easy to gain consensus about the technical stuff that you need to measure. It's much harder to get consensus around well, what does it mean to deliver value to our users? You know, you'd be surprised at how many people haven't even thought about the fact that their company delivers value and that there's ways to measure it. And so it's just an interesting tool to start to like kind of broach that ice with people outside of engineering.
What does your environment look like? I mean, you said you're using Docker. Are you using Docker to stage Kibana and StatsD? And how do you have security around those? Sort of workload.
I only use Docker for the demo because it's easy to bring up multiple boxes very quickly. But I've been thinking about Docker in production. That's a whole other conversation we can have if you want. Yeah.
So for SlowJam, you have to either decide on what you want to monitor, or maybe potentially use another profiler first to find the suspect function and then wrap it around it.
So yeah, but I think that once you start programming with SlowJam or any tool like SlowJam, the tool is so easy to reach for that as you're writing code and you're like in it, and you get to a point you're like, oh, this might be slow, you just put it. So you actually write prospectively because like the cost for using SlowJam is so low that you can just sort of put it in there thinking like, well, here's a bunch of database access, or you know, here I'm talking to 2 different services. I think if your organization derives any value out of StatsD as it is, like this is like a whole new extra layer on top of that. And I think it becomes easy just to use as you write code.
Okay, and that was my second question. What's the performance impact of using SlowJam? So it sounds like.
I think it's at the level of logging. So if you log in production, you can use. I think what's interesting is if you look at companies like Twitter and Google who write what we might think of as like the fastest code, you know, they make sure that visibility is the first thing that they have. And even if that causes some amount of slowness, like being able to debug production problems is really difficult, and so it's important.
No other questions? Good to go?
Not a question, but I happened to go to PyCon this year, and Intel had a suite of tools for Python profiling and analysis. I haven't used it much myself. I saw the demo, it was really impressive, but that'd be something else for just be aware of. Looking for something to play with.
If you haven't used tools like New Relic, they do this, but it's expensive.
And this is less focused on web services and web code, but yeah, just other tooling out there. Intel's kind of suite. It's pretty nice to see.
Yeah. Also, just one last thing, which is like it's easy to port this idea to many different languages. So I work at a company where we're kind of trying to migrate a 16-year-old Perl app into the new world. And I got there and I was like, "Where's my SlowJam?" And so I wrote a port of SlowJam, and now one of my coworkers is taking over, and they call it Perl Jam.
Awesome. Let's give another round of applause. Awesome. So now everybody's favorite time. I don't know why everything's breaking right now. So my server, just as you were talking about profiling, I got a New Relic alert that we're getting all these hits from Ukraine. So somebody's trying to SSH in right now. We have failed to ban, and it keeps banning them, but when it does a certain amount of bans in a 10-minute period, then I get notified. So, yay! I wrote a little function. You guys can tell me what it does, right? So, this is our raffle time. This is why everybody got a number. So what was the last number that you got? Is anybody 29? Who's 29 right now? You should look at your thing right now, double check. 28? Who's 28? Check your thing. If you don't, then you're going to get... Yeah. 27? Nobody's 28. You're 28.
27.
Thanks, Dad.
Ruh-roh.
Man.
You're just like,
Maybe 27.5.
Nope.
It's a random hint, so.
Yeah.
28
We're gonna raffle this, and 2 people are gonna win.
At least we know who to blame.
So to be clear, 28. Nobody's 29. There's nobody else. Well, we're gonna find out if somebody has the same number.
What's the probability of
Of what? That he did too? I don't know.
It's gonna pick
The probability is pretty high.
Okay, so we have almost 30 people. It's 29 because I'm number 0. So I like to do 1 raffle prize for every 10 people. We don't have any books this time, so we're actually going to just give away these dumb little paper bags. They're pretty dumb. I don't think anybody wants these. These are the last of our dumb little paper bags. No, come up to Okay, so Alex, do you want to press Shift Enter on this bad boy for me?
Yeah. Are you sure I'm not going to break your Linux computer?
No,
With my
it's
Mac
Linux.
hands?
No.
Okay. Shift Enter.
Shift Enter. Number 24 is the winner. Woo! Sweet. Round of applause. Come on down. I like saying that. Sweet. So you want to show everybody what you got in this dumb little paper bag so they get more excited about the last 2?
Okay.
Show the camera too.
So it's a microbit.
That's right, and not just any microbit. Come on, use your TV voice.
It is the BBC microbit.
Open it up, what did you do?
Okay.
BBC microbit. And that's all, not all, Anish. I don't know. You're also going home with a brand new BBC microbit.
Wow.
Wow.
What is it? It's a tiny computer. So, yeah, nice. Everybody and every 11-year-old in Great Britain got one of these. It features, let me show you them yours. So this guys have a compass, has an accelerometer, it has a 5x5 LED matrix, 2 buttons for fun. The bottom acts as a piezo, or you can add alligator clips. Is it pronounced piezo or I don't know. Yeah, and it has, I think I said accelerometer. Also has Bluetooth, low energy Bluetooth, so you can actually connect them to each other with signals. And the best part is, guess what you can code it with? Python, that's right.
PHP, if I can get that knife out of my bag.
Congratulations, Anish. And your second prize is you get to pick the next prize winner. So, okay. Cool. Come here. Shift Enter. Number 10.
Number 10.
Come on down, Paul.
Thanks.
Pause for Paul. By the way, when you win one of these, you are obligated to give a talk. Just saying.
Okay. You name the topic. Do you want to see this one too?
Sorry? No, you don't. It's the same thing. They're all little microbits. You could do Shift Enter for us, though.
Okay.
Last prize winner, number 8. There you go. Come
Hey.
on down.
Way to go, Ben.
Yeah, Ben. All the new people. That's awesome. Cool. And this is our very last BBC microbit. I will order more next time Britain decides to leave the EU. Because they are direct from Britain. And I did save 30% by ordering within a couple hours of that. I felt like a total jerk, but I was like, you know.
The pound is down to $1.20 something.
Yeah, I think we're still pretty strong right now. Now, if a certain candidate wins the election, then I'm gonna have to just, stop everything. But yeah.
We'll just make them here. So
yeah. Cool. Sweet. And cool. That's all I got for you guys tonight. If you want to talk to me, certain people I did tell you to talk to me. That's fine. I'm probably going to assign you a cleaning task while I do. If you do stick around to go accidentally trip into the bar next door, that's a thing, by the way. Yeah, just follow me. I'm going to clean up this space as much as possible first. Yeah, and if you want to talk to me, I might randomly just assign you a cleaning task, which is also fun. Thanks again. I'll see you November, what was it? 2nd. Thanks, guys.